Good evening, everybody. Welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the 2024 Annual General Meeting of the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia. My name is John Britton. I'm the CEO, and I'll be hosting you along with our board chair, Lindsay Cross, this evening. And we'll also be hearing from a couple other board members as part of the business updates tonight. Before we get things underway, I just want to thank you sincerely for coming out on this beautiful evening. This is our first in-person general meeting at the Society since June 2019. So you can, thank you. Pause for applause, I love that. So we've been super excited, and I'm not going to lie, there's a little bit of anxiety going around just because it's been so long since we've done something in person that involves business articles and voting. So one thing I'll say before we kick off formally is thank you so much for your grace in advance. We're all used to the online world. I would like to welcome our online audience. This is a hybrid event. Where's the camera? Where is the camera? Hello, Nova Scotia. It's really, really nice to have folks online and in the room for our first true hybrid event publicly like this that we've ever really had. We've done a lot of these kind of programs and services and public education, but this is our first time in person in 5 years, and we're thrilled to have you in the room tonight. Now, before we do get our proceedings underway this evening, we do acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq Nation. We are all treaty people. At the Society, we do take responsibility for our role in reconciliation, and we are working diligently to implement the calls to action made by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. Furthermore, we recognise the people of African descent who have been in Nova Scotia for more than 400 years, and the 52 communities across Nova Scotia with African and Nova Scotian communities. We also recognise the Acadians who lived in harmony with the Mi'kmaq and whose communities across the province are a living testament to the fortitude of their ancestors who survived the Grand Arrangement. The Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia is committed to undertaking work to create collaborative and respectful relationships. Together, our goal is to identify and develop tools that align with the beliefs and needs of Indigenous, African Nova Scotian, Acadian, and all equity-seeking communities across our province. We're committed to work as community members and allies in the elimination of racism and discrimination from healthcare and across society in general. We also, as a society, acknowledge our role in creating safe and inclusive spaces and supports. Dementia does not discriminate, and ASNS is here to support all Nova Scotians affected by dementia. We are a proud employer with the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion, and we are committed to this work. You can read much more about our work in inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility on our website. And I will now play a short video from Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care, Barbara Adams. We have a long-standing, collaborative and trusting relationship with our provincial government, and I'm thrilled that Minister Adams can bring greetings. She does send her apologies for not being able to be here in person this evening. I don't know how to press play on this thing. I just press the play button.
Good evening. I'm sorry I couldn't join you in person, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to extend my gratitude for the incredible work done by everyone in this room and online. Your unwavering dedication to supporting people living with Alzheimer's and their families is truly inspiring. Your efforts provide hope, comfort, and invaluable resources to those facing the challenges of this disease. From raising awareness and funding research to offering practical assistance and emotional support, your impact is profound and far-reaching. I know your recent Walk for Alzheimer's was a huge success with participants from across the province. This is indicative of the important role you play in communities, but also how much people value your work. There is no doubt that the Alzheimer's Society is government's strongest partner and ally, as well as an advocate for Nova Scotians living with dementia and their caregivers. As partners in this important mission, we are stronger together. I look forward to continuing our work together and celebrating the commitment, compassion, and perseverance that defines the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia. Thank you, and please enjoy your day.
A wonderful message there from our provincial government. Okay, I will now hand over to our board chair, Lindsay Cross, who will take us through the next portion of our evening. Lindsay, would you like me to advance the slides for you?
Thank you. John and I have decided that we're both going to hover behind one another to keep things efficient. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Lindsay Cross. I have the privilege of serving as the board chair with the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia. I'm pleased to welcome you this evening. This is my first in-person AGM, and I joined the board in 2020, which was a really great year, wasn't it? And so this is very exciting. We have a wonderful turnout tonight, a mix of staff, lots of staff here. We have volunteers, we have board members, and of course, we have persons living with dementia and their loved ones. And of course, it is all of those individuals who inspire our work every day. So, there's some formal things that we have to do as part of this agenda. And so, by the order of the Board of Governors, take notice that the annual general meeting of the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia will be held at the Halifax Tower Hotel from 6 o'clock, or approximately 6:09, Halifax, Nova Scotia, today, June 26th of 2024. In conformity with the Society's bylaws, the quorum shall consist of 10 members. I'm very pleased to say that we do have quorum, and the meeting is properly constituted. I'm going to now hand it back to John. John is going to walk us through the logistics of tonight's meeting, because we get to do fun things like vote. So John, thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And please excuse me fanning myself. I do not have an internal cooling system. I wasn't born with one, so I get very hot very, very easily. So you'll probably see me fanning myself for most of the meeting. Okay, so just a little bit on tech support. As I've mentioned, this is our first time doing this in person in quite some time, so your grace is appreciated as we just run through the logistics of how we're going to transact our business this evening. So we do have an online audience, and if anybody online does need technical support at any time this evening, we do have a dedicated staff member, Douglas, who is available for you. The number is displayed on your screen, so please feel free to call or text Douglas if you're having any problems, or you can send a private message in the Zoom chat. Okay, so the voting process, very interesting because we have members online, we have members in the room. So it's very straightforward. We've got some standard articles of business that we have to transact at our annual general meeting. So the way that it will work is that everybody presenting this evening, except for myself, is a member of the society. And as a member, they will be the ones that make the motion. So sometimes you may have been to an AGM where we call for a motion from the floor. Tonight, the presenters are the members, and they will be making the initial motion. We will then look for a second to second that motion. So what the person will say, Lindsay, or whether it's Chris who's presenting the finances tonight, will basically say, we are now looking for a member to raise their hand to second the motion. The reason we're asking for a hand raise is because we do have folks online and we want to make sure that we're being fair and equitable and that the folks online have an opportunity to participate in our business tonight. And then finally, once we have a second, we will go to a general vote. The way that the general vote works is majority, which is 50% plus 1. The way our bylaws are constituted means that we optically will just check for that. Nothing is controversial in terms of the business that we transact at the AGM, so we don't expect any difficulties. So we'll be looking for a general member vote. So just a couple of notes here. The motion will be made by the presenter for the standard annual business items, and the presenter will make a call for a second. The people that can second a motion are members. If you're a member in good standing of the society, you can second. That could be verbal in the room, or it could be typed into the chat if we have a member online. The member status will be confirmed by a staff member, because sometimes we have very passionate folks who aren't members that vote, and then it hits the minutes, and we don't want that to happen. So we will just confirm your member status, and then the second will be confirmed by the presenter. This sounds really complicated, and it's not. I'm just kind of realizing this is maybe not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. But anyway, at least we're all very familiar with the process now. So the member vote, open to members. We will call for a raise of hands, all in favour. The majority will be confirmed by the staff, and then the motion will be carried. I don't think we need to do the next bit, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's in the slide deck. We were going to do a practice motion just to get everybody in the mood for it. So, just to be clear, this is not formal business, and you will see why in a second. So, let's run this through as a practice. I make the motion that the 2025 AGM is held in Disneyland. Cue laughter. We're not going to Disneyland, just to be clear. So if I made that motion, what I would now say is I am now asking our members to please raise your hand to second the motion. Could our members please raise their hands? And that would include online, and our staff member, Douglas, will check for raised hands online and raise his hand if somebody online. So the presenter will then decide, is it somebody in the room? Is it somebody online? So we will pick somebody, get you to state your name for the record, second the motion, then we'll call for a wide vote for the members, carry the motion, and then we'll move on. Sound good? Excellent. Good stuff. Okay, I will now hand back to Lindsay, who will put this into practice by our first official business of the night, which is approval of agenda. Lindsay?
Thank you. So just to confirm, that was not official business. We will not be going to Disneyland. That was good, though. Okay, so I appreciate it. Okay, so now we're going to quickly run through the agenda, which hopefully everybody can read on their screen. We are going to cover a number of items. First, we're going to talk about the agenda. We have minutes from the 2023 AGM. We will be taking a moment in remembrance, acknowledging some very important individuals. We will have several reports, my own, John's. We have, of course, Chris, Treasurer's report. We have Carrie from the nominating committee. We also have a number of research awards. We're going to, of course, give a very heartfelt thank you to our volunteers. We'll be looking ahead to the future, and then we will be adjourning. And then, of course, we have some fun activities as a really great way for us to get to know one another and have important conversations. So, that is the agenda. So I motion to approve the agenda as presented. Could I please have a member raise their hand to second the motion? Chris, you are a member. Thank you very much for seconding that motion. And any members against this article are contrary-minded? Anyone against the motion? I cannot see what's happening online. I see. Okay, wonderful. Hearing none or seeing no hands, to the contrary, thank you. I will now ask our members to raise their hands in a vote for the motion to pass the agenda as presented. Thank you. That motion is approved. So that is our agenda. The next item, I almost set up for auction. That wouldn't have...
Surprise!
Maybe later. The next item, do you want to just advance? Are we good? Yeah, perfect. Is the approval of the 2023 AGM minutes. And of course, if you are a member, you would have received this as part of your package in advance. So I will make the motion, the minutes from the 2023 AGM. My motion to approve the minutes as presented. Can I please have a member raise their hand to second the motion? I see Mark Inglis. Thank you very much, Mark. Any members against this article or contrary-minded? Seeing none and hearing none from Douglas, thank you. I'll now ask our members to raise their hands in a vote for the motion. Lots of hands, thank you. That motion is approved. I'll now hand it back to John.
We're playing microphone ping pong this evening. Okay, so as we all know, the last few years have been some of the most challenging in recent memory, and we've continued to grapple not only with the ongoing effects and post-effects of the pandemic, we've also had a really extraordinary few years in terms of natural disasters and things happening socially that are playing very heavily on people's minds. So we just want to acknowledge the difficulty of the last few years, and of course, we always take time to pause and reflect and remember those we have lost in the past 12 months to Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your respect. Okay, on to some acknowledgements. So it takes an immense commitment to do the work that we do, and that commitment comes from a vast number of people from a wide variety of backgrounds. It's impossible to thank everybody that has a hand in doing the work that we do, but I do want to make special mention of a few core groups whose unwavering commitment it really is the cornerstone of our society. So first, to our volunteers, you expand our work 50-fold, and we could not do what we do without you. That's a cliche, I know, but it's very, very true. Thank you for your commitment and for your dedication. We appreciate you. And then specifically to our board of directors, many folks don't realize that board positions are volunteer positions too, and in between 4 quarterly meetings that run for almost 3 hours, committee meetings that run for a couple of hours that happen regularly, check-ins with myself and the team, phone calls, availability for support. Lindsay and I spend so much time texting and talking, and the support is absolutely immense. And honestly, the commitment of volunteers at that level is staggering to me. We're so grateful to you. Thank you for your commitment and your support. Thank you. And finally, our staff team. I'm a proud papa, I'm not going to lie. The team at this society are my greatest source of pride. I've been in this sector for over 20 years, and this is without doubt the most talented, dedicated, and spirited group of people I've ever had the privilege to work with. The phrase above and beyond was invented for this team, and Nova Scotians on the dementia journey are so lucky to have you. Thank you, team. And back to the ping pong. I will now hand back to Lindsay for our President's report.
Thank you. So the President's report, every year it's a little bit different. On the back of your annual report, which you were provided on the way in, there is a message there which is a little bit different from the one I'm going to read tonight. I thought I'd give you twice the content. So, you know, an annual general meeting is all about looking back while also looking ahead. And I really do look back on the last year with gratitude. I think, you know, John spoke highly of the team. But like many people in our province, I really lived for much of my first 40 years thinking that Alzheimer's and dementia was about age and genetics. And I have learned that it is, in fact, not just about those two things. So learning through the landmark study, learning through John, learning through the incredibly talented, knowledgeable staff about modifiable risk factors. And I'm so happy to see that the staff are making a dedicated effort to lift that message up and educate people about the power they do have to affect their health outcomes. And so I too have been inspired to make some changes to improve the health of my own brain. And I know that yesterday, 3 of our board members went to the Maritime Brain Bank. And I encourage you all to look into what they do. Their work is incredible. Our brains, you know, our hearts are pretty important too. We talk about the heart as the thing. Our brains and our hearts are so interlinked. The work that the Maritime Brain Bank is doing is pretty spectacular. And I'm so glad that they invite us and, of course, team members there as well. So yeah, had I never joined the board, I probably would still be in the dark. So I look at this, for me, as a bit of a postgraduate study. So it's great, a lifelong learner. And of course, this is exactly why ASNS continues to grow and evolve. Not only as an ally, but as a trusted expert we heard from our government partners. The Alzheimer's Society is the #1 trusted expert and ally of the government, and the work that we're doing continues to expand. So last evening, I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you. In this brief update on behalf of the Board of Directors, most of whom are here with us this evening. And it would be typical to summarize a list of achievements that have taken place over the last year. John and others will take care of that shortly. But as I was reflecting, I realized the story that really wouldn't be evident in an annual report that's looking at 12 months of data. You see the achievements over the last 12 months and the momentum that I can feel, I'm sure you can all feel it in this room, if you've come to the annual conference in October, if you've come to an event, if you're in a board meeting, the tides are changing. There's a feeling. People know this is an urgent conversation that matters. But what's happening is a reflection not of 12 months, but of the 5-year transformation that has happened at the Society since 2019, under the leadership of John, our CEO, and of course, the incredible team that he supports. In the last 5 years of a 41-year history, ASNS has doubled in size, in scope, in funding, and I also believe in heart. John's leadership has impacted every single area of the Society's operation, while also contributing to a growing vision for equitable access to dementia care and support across our province. So 41 years, and in the last 5, it's doubled. It's a pretty good correlation, the scientists would say. Put simply, the change in culture over 5 years at ASNS cannot be understated. Taking care of the people who are working to care for others is a core part of operational integrity. And the board is very grateful to John for creating a person-centered workplace where everyone can not only belong, but be their best. Of course, we have Mr. Mark Gillis, our past president, and Mark is with us, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mark, our former board chair, for playing a very large role in hiring John 5 years ago. So thank you. When I asked Mark, who is now on the board for the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, to reflect on what stood out about John when he was going through that rigorous process for his new job, he kept it quite simple. The hiring committee knew we had met someone with a sincere interest in helping people on the dementia journey through a strong team and a transparent, collaborative culture. I can tell you that that's as true today as it was 5 years ago. I wasn't here 5 years ago. But since joining the board in 2020, I've seen John, mostly online, in Zoom, the beginning of our relationship, I've seen John navigate both opportunities and challenges, from small and in community to a global pandemic. And never has he lost sight of what's most important. So please join me in thanking John for an incredible 5 years of service, and we look forward to all that's ahead. I would also like to thank my fellow board members and acknowledge their continued support over the last year. Like any organization with a meaningful mission, the work is not always easy, and it's certainly not simple. But I have never had more confidence about our ability to practice good governance than we do today, based on the work that we continue to put in quarter after quarter in those 3-hour-long meetings. I look forward to my second year as board chair and working alongside all of you, and of course connecting with many of you this evening who I haven't had the opportunity to say hello to so far. And I'll now ask John to share his CEO report.
Great, now I've got to follow that. Thank you, Lindsay. That was very unexpected and very sweet and very appreciated. Thank you. Okay, all right, I've got to do my bit now. Okay, so typically we've done lots of different things in the last few years. Sometimes we do a video, sometimes we do a flipbook version of the annual report. And I was considering, very much like Lindsay, what was the best way to kind of talk about the year. You've got the report in front of you, and it's absolutely packed with lots of information about exactly what we've done over the 12-month period that's under review. So what really stuck out at me, and I'm going to try this going off script, so obviously probably my team are like, oh no, we know what's going to happen. It really occurred to me, looking at the cover of the report is actually a really good summary of what's happened, to Lindsay's point, not just in the last 12 months, but in the last 5 years. And yes, there's been a massive commitment to culture and a person-centered culture. We've also learned a lot through the pandemic, and there has been a series of reports called the Landmark study. There's 2 of them out. The third one is coming, we think, in January 2025. They are transformative. They have given us the language and the tools to change the way that we think about the work that we do. Lots and lots of things we could comment on here, lots more to come. But what I'll do today is just maybe take you through the cover of the report and just show you how it actually indicates this kind of tonal shift in how we're doing our work. So the first is the title, The Path Forward. It complements our strategic plan, which is called Lighting Our Future Path, and you'll note that both of those things are future focused. And that's because in 2022, on release of the first Landmark study, we became very acutely aware that there was an 80% increase in dementia signaled for our province over the next 30 years, and it was a bit of a jaw dropper for us, because what we really realized was just adding more staff and growing, the growth we've had has been necessary, but we can't just keep growing exponentially to meet the need. We would probably have a team of 400 if that was the logic that we applied, and we know that that's not viable. So it forced us to think a little bit differently about how we do our work. So the plan and all of the work related to it is in service of meeting those future needs head on. You'll also see a familiar sight on the cover, and that's one of our team talking on a podium, speaking publicly. That is not new for us. That's what we do. We are public educators. What is new is the approach we're taking. So we know that research indicates that improving brain health at population level can reduce the overall number of people living with dementia. So it's not just about supporting those on the journey, it's about really focusing on brain health and attacking those projections to try and reduce them by increasing population level brain health. Sorry, I just lost my place on the page. Give me 1 second. So yes, as we face that future with elevated numbers of people living with dementia, elevating our public education has been and will remain a major focus. Something else that really stood out to me about the cover, so this young lady is Abby McDonough, who may be known to some of you as the daughter of the late, great Alexa McDonough. We're very, very lucky to be very closely linked with the McDonough family, and last year Abby was our walk ambassador and, you know, was our face of the walk, shared her story, did some media for us. It was absolutely incredible. But what's really meaningful about that is that connecting with younger folks is becoming a major emergent focus for us. Young people are increasingly involved in the dementia journey as care partners. They're also healthcare professionals and researchers and working in support roles, and our role in supporting and engaging younger generations has become and will remain an essential component of our future focus work. We've mentioned Landmark. Now, Landmark Part 1 was all about projections. Landmark Part 2, which is an absolute doozy of a read if you haven't read it. And I'm not a data person, so if I'm telling you to read a scientific report, it's worth reading. It's fascinating. It's all about the changing face of dementia in Canada and things that we maybe don't consider. So if we know that there's an 87% increase in the general population, it's double that for African Nova Scotian populations. It's almost triple that for Southeast Asian populations. It's quite shocking. We're not going to get into the reasons why tonight. Please take a look at the report. There's a lot of great data and personal stories that back up that data in that study. But again, it really gave us pause and really think long and hard about what it means for the future work of the society. Right in the middle of the page is a great example of existing work that has become elevated as a result of some of this knowledge. So this last year saw a major improvement in our community presence. After our conference, we used to have an evening called Family Night. So the conference is mainly directed to healthcare. Anybody can come, but it's healthcare focused. And then we would have a friends and family evening for friends and family. We've now expanded that to Community Week, and we have a series of events in person in communities across the province, which started in 2023 and will now continue. We can't wait to share the dates with you at the end of our meeting tonight. And of course, you'll see there the Walk for Alzheimer's, which, let's be honest, it fell off a cliff a little bit during the pandemic years. Nobody wants an online walk. Thank you to everybody for sticking with us as we battle through those difficult years. We have brought it back in a big way in person, and it was an absolute thrill to see folks convening again in person after the few years that we had had together. So we're pretty much back to pre-pandemic levels of walk and fundraising, which is incredible news. And finally, this is probably my favorite thing. For Awareness Month, we made a bold move and we approached things really differently. There's a lot of misinformation in the public sphere about all aspects of dementia. So we elected to host our first ever Hype versus Hope event at the Central Library, where local healthcare experts and scientists and researchers helped our audience unpack what is cause for real hope in our sector, and which inventors are more rooted in hype. You know, which are the things that we really need to be mindful of, not, you know, to go down the rabbit hole too much. It was really nerve-wracking for us. We weren't sure how it was going to be received, and it was received really warmly, and it's obviously there's an appetite in the public sphere for us to lead discourse around these topics. So really the message here is that the world of dementia continues to shift and change, and I'm really proud of our society in recognizing how we also need to shift and change to meet those evolving and emerging needs. You can read way more in the annual report. I encourage you to do so. Thank you for your time, and I will now hand you back to Lindsay. Thank you.
Great. I like that. That was good. Really good cover. And I encourage you all to take a copy and read through it. Make sure that you're signed up for email, and there's always lots of really great content being shared on social media and on the website. So we'll now move to formal business to approve the President and CEO reports. So I motion to approve the Director reports as presented. Can I please have a member raise their hand to second this motion? I see Carrie Cody. Thank you, Carrie. Any members against this article or contrary minded? I now ask our members. Oh, sorry. Is there anyone who's contrary minded? Seeing none, I'll now ask our members to raise their hands in a vote for this motion. Wonderful, thank you. Approved. I now invite Chris Treneman, Treasurer, to go over the audited financial statements for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
Thanks, Lindsay. Good evening, everyone. Happy to be up here this evening, to spend a couple minutes just providing a couple high-level overviews of the financial results for the organization. So up here on the screen, you have an excerpt from our audited financial statements. So these were discussed, met on at a board level, and approved at last week's board meeting, but we wanted to bring a couple of the excerpts here to you tonight. As well, after tonight's meeting, the full audited financial statements, including auditor's report, are available online. And they're online at www.asnsannualreport.ca. So I'll take a high-level walk through here. Really the highlights of the year. We had a great year. As John noted, some of the fundraising activities have rebounded from pre-COVID levels. So we see our donations up year over year. We also see our government contributions increasing as well to new record highs. So that overall has driven an increase in revenue for the organization for the 2024 year. So you can see we've crossed the $3 million mark in total revenues at $3.7 million before investment returns. Against that would be the expenses of operating the organization. So we also see an increase in expenses for the current year. So although sometimes expenses increasing is a bad thing, in this case, it's really driven by the additional work that the society's been doing. So I think as we continue to get more funding, all of a sudden we're able to do more projects, more programs, and provide more support to the community. So we see expenses increasing for the current year as well. When we take the revenues less the expenses for the year, we end up in a surplus position, which again is a great news story compared to last year's deficit position. Although the surplus might look large for the current year at a little over $300,000, given the nature of the space, it is a little bit volatile, and it does represent less than 10% of our total operating budget. We also have the statement of financial position, or the balance sheet, up on the screen. So a couple highlights on our balance sheet. We continue to be in a strong financial position. Our current ratio remains very healthy, and our total assets have grown this year to end the year at just over $3 million. We have a number of liabilities offsetting those assets, but again, all are actively managed, and so from a financial position, we are in great shape. I mentioned that the board reviewed these financial statements last week, but we also go through the rigorous audit process on an annual basis. So our auditors have been in, they've completed an audit of the financial statements, and have issued their audit report as well. So with those comments, I'd now like to make a motion to adopt the financial statements for the year ending March 31st, 2024, as presented. Can I have a member to second that motion, please? All right, Sean? Could all members in favor please raise your hand? Opposed? Motion carried. As well, at tonight's meeting, we would like to bring forward the motion to approve appointment of auditors for the next fiscal year. So we've now just completed our second year working with the audit firm Baker Tilly. Happy to say it was a great experience. We received full cooperation from the auditors. They worked well with the team at the Alzheimer's Society. So we would like to look at going forward with Baker Tilly for next year as well. So at this point in time, I would like to make a motion that the firm Baker Tilly be reappointed as the external auditors of the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia for the year ending March 31st, 2025. Could I have a seconder for that motion, please? All right, Deborah? All in favor? Opposed? That motion is now carried as well. So thank you for your time tonight. I'll now invite the chair of our nominating committee, Carrie, to come up and present her report.
Good evening. I am pleased to submit the report of the nominating committee for the 2023-24 year. We have some continuing board members this year. The following directors will be continuing their terms. We have Lindsay Cross, our board chair from HRM. Mark Inglis is our vice chair, hailing from Sydney, Cape Breton. Chris Treneman is our treasurer from HRM. Dr. Melissa Andrew from HRM. Myself, I live in Truro. Rob Pulling from HRM. Sean Bradley, also from HRM, and Faye Forbes from HRM. Vanessa Nevin, also from Truro, and Deborah Boudreau, living in Digby. So we have a bit of a representation across our province for sure. We have had some new board members join this year to the Society since our last AGM, and this includes Ian Bezanson and very recently, Julie Carson. So we welcome our new board members. You're doing the slides, right? Okay, that's good. I'm not. Thank you, John. We also have some retiring members this year. The following board members will be retiring or unable to complete their terms from the board. So we will be losing this year Karen Nichols and Alex Stewart. And I don't think that either of them are here tonight. But Karen and Alex have brought so much of their time, talent, and expertise to our board over their tenures, and we are very grateful for their service. I guess that's all I have to say because they're not here, right? Okay. Any member in good standing can apply to be a member of our board via our board recruitment process. That's what the committee does that I'm on, the nominating committee. As per our bylaws, we ask if there are any members present who would like to nominate themselves or someone else. And just so you know, I have to ask this question 3 times. Are there any other nominations? And I'll ask one more time, are there any nominations coming from the floor tonight or online? Okay. I'm not hearing anything or seeing anything, so there being no further nominations, the above slate of directors are presented for 2024-2025. Now I have to make a motion to approve the board slate. I motion that the Board of Directors of the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia for the year ending March 31st, 2025 be approved as presented. Members, please raise your hand to second. I'm seeing a second from Chris Treneman. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Any members against the article or contrary minded? I'm not seeing any, so thank you. That motion is approved. And now I will ask Dr. Melissa Andrew to update on the Phyllis Horton Student Research Award and the Abe Leventhal Student Research Award.
Great, thank you so much for being here. This is unbiased, but the best part of this meeting, where we get to hear about some of the great research that's happening with some really enthusiastic students and trainees, and really the future of research and practice in this area. So I do chair the Research Advisory Committee at the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia, and I've been a board member for long enough that my teenagers are the ones who voted against the budget when they were like 2 years old and used to come to these meetings. Tonight it really is my pleasure to present awards to 3 outstanding trainees on behalf of the Research Advisory Committee. Which I should say is constituted of researchers across different areas of research in Nova Scotia's dementia community. So from biochemical discovery, brain bank, clinical research, to research on caregiving and long-term care, models of care, primary care. Like, we really do span that whole field, and so it's really important to think about research as a very broad thing. And we have some of that represented here tonight amongst our award winners. So I'll first tell you about the Abe Leventhal Awards. So Abe Leventhal was a Halifax businessman and a quiet philanthropist. And over the years, he supported countless causes, including the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia. And when Mr. Leventhal passed away in 2016, his estate provided bequests to 8 charities, including the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia. And in order to honor his passion for research and supporting students, because those were really things that stood out in his legacy, the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia has established the Abe Leventhal Research Fund, and part of this gift has been designated to fund these awards. So I will introduce you first to the first award winner, who is Rachel Lewis, and Rachel's present tonight. Maybe I'll talk about you, and then I'll get you to stand up so everyone can see who you are. So Rachel just graduated from Dalhousie University with a Bachelor of Science in Honors in Medical Sciences. And her thesis was supervised by Dr. Caitlin MacArthur, examining the association between communication impairments and receipt of physiotherapy and occupational therapy in long-term care settings among people living with dementia. And I'm excited to say that she has been accepted to Dalhousie University Medical School at the St. John campus to be starting her journey to become an MD in the fall. So congratulations, Rachel, and maybe you can stand up and we'll stand. best of luck as you start at Delmed St. John. So our other Abe Leventhal Trainee Award goes to Alexandria Delaney. And Alexandria also recently graduated with a Master of Arts in Sociology from Acadia University. And her thesis was supervised by Dr. Rebecca Casey and examined the needs of family and friend caregivers in Nova Scotia, including access to financial, health, and social supports. And I'm excited to announce that in September, Alexandria will begin her PhD studies in sociology at the University of Manitoba, also focusing on caregiving. So that's so great to hear that you'll be continuing. And so, Alexandria, you want to stand up and say congratulations? And all the best as you embark in your PhD studies. And finally, we have the Phyllis Horton Graduate Research Award. So Phyllis Horton was a founding member of our Alzheimer's Society, and in 1980, her husband, Del, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and she found that there was very little information or support available in Nova Scotia at that time, especially about the disease itself and about caregiving, and that inspired her involvement in setting up a local Alzheimer's Society. In 1995, Phyllis Horton's family established a bursary in her honor to support local research and students to encourage work in this area. So the 2024 Phyllis Horton Research Award recipient is Gabrielle Hansen. Gabrielle is a graduate student studying medical neuroscience at Dalhousie University, who's supervised by Dr. Sultan Darvish, who's also here this evening. We've heard about him already with the Brain Bank. And Gabrielle is researching the underlying causes of sleep problems and in neurodegenerative conditions such as Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, and multiple sclerosis. And she is dedicated to making meaningful contributions to the field with the ultimate goal of improving the quality of life for those affected by these neurodegenerative conditions. And for those who were present at the walk, she gave a very impassioned talk at the walk about the importance of this work. So I think she's here this evening. There she is. Stand up and say congratulations to you, Gabrielle. And we wish you every success in your future career. So let's just clap again. One round of applause for the 3 award winners. And now I get to pass it off to John Britton for the Volunteer Service Awards.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm just going to skip ahead in my notes here. Give me 1 second. I think you'll get a good sense just from those last 3 presenters just how actively engaged our board are in the ongoing work of the Society. So thank you to all of you again. Okay, we are a volunteer-driven society, and we are just going to acknowledge our volunteers tonight in our service awards because we have a lovely reception at Government House. It's happening in November where we invite our volunteers with the Lieutenant Governor, and we have a little celebration in their honour. And the Lieutenant Governor has provided a letter, which I will read out. Today, I would like to recognise the profound impact and the efforts of the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia have on the lives of individuals and families affected by Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. The services and programmes offered by your society serve as a lifeline for many, providing invaluable support and guidance through challenging times. The annual general meeting provides moments to reflect on past achievements and opportunities to chart the course for the year ahead. It's a time to gather with partners, friends, and supporters in the sector, celebrating your collective progress and reaffirming your dedication to advancing dementia support within our province. Currently, the province is working to address the needs of thousands of Nova Scotians who have not received the support they require. Projections indicate a rise in dementia cases in the coming decades, making the availability of support more critical than ever. Your society remains steadfast in its commitment to addressing these pressing issues, from improving access to diagnosis to ensuring equitable support for all communities, especially those in rural areas and those that are underrepresented. I am filled with hope knowing that the Alzheimer's Society of Nova Scotia is poised to lead the charge in ushering in a new era of care and support. None of this would be possible without the tireless efforts of our board members, staff and volunteers. From advising on healthcare matters to facilitating support groups, running events and managing the office, your dedication ensures that the critical needs of thousands of residents are met with compassion, timeliness and cultural sensitivity. On behalf of His Majesty the King and all Nova Scotians, I extend my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for an unwavering commitment and support. Thank you for the countless ways that you have contributed to the health and well-being of our province. Patsy and I send best wishes for the annual general meeting. We hope to see you at Government House in the future and send best wishes for the remainder of 2024. Signed, His Honour Arthur J. LeBlanc, the Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia. Thank you. Clicker. Okay, so we will be awarding these in person, but it is important to acknowledge because some of the length of service of these are quite shocking. So 5 years of service with the Society, we have Linda Turner, Sharon Davis Murdoch, and Veronica Morsman. Congratulations on 5 years of service. $10 of service, we have Brenda Etheridge, Catherine Ann Murray, Ed Steves, Elizabeth Purcell, Francis Waller, and Wendy Weirstrom. Thank you for 10 years of incredible service. And here's the biggie. 20 years of service. We have a very dedicated volunteer, Susan Bowles. So thank you, Susan, for 20 incredible years. And with that, we will move on to a short portion of the evening where we just take a look ahead. It's not typical for an AGM to do this, but I think given the tone and the language and talking about future state, it's very future focused, and we thought it would be prudent to just very briefly just give you a bit of a taste of what's kind of cooking at the Society and what we're focused on. So we do have a pretty robust strategic plan. We're in year 3 of 5, and we have 5 key strategic intentions. So I'll take you quickly through those intentions. Apologies. Oh, it's just on my screen. I thought it was cut off. I'll take you through each intention and just describe briefly some of the activities and initiatives that are happening at the Society to support their advancement. So to change the conversation, you're going to hear a lot about this very shortly. We are massively committed to the Dementia Friendly Communities Project. We're thrilled to have our first Dementia Friendly Community Awards tonight, which will be coming up very shortly, and that's going to remain a big focus for the Society. We've talked a little bit about this, but it's very much on our mind. Elevated public discourse, especially around things like disinformation. There are new drugs coming. The first disease-modifying therapies in many years, and people are rightly excited. But there's a lot to unpack as it relates to these kind of things, and I do think the Society has an obligation to help people in the public sphere to understand and navigate some of these things. Formalised, cumulative, audience-specific education offerings. This is a big focus of ours right now. We are an educating society. What we're now committed to doing is refining that even further, and we're currently developing what we're hoping will become education tracks that are very specific to specific people. So Mark Gillis, as a board member, for example, or a former board member, would need to know about dementia, but not to the same level as somebody like, is Anne in the room? Somebody like Anne who's facilitating a caregiver support group. You need to know about dementia, but you don't need to know the same level of knowledge. So what we're really committed to doing now is developing audience-specific tracks that are cumulative and build ongoing engagement with the Society. There's a lot more to come on that. The second intention, enhance the quality of life for people living with dementia. Thrilled to let you know that we have made great strides in the expansion of a diagnosis solution. One of our messages is get a diagnosis. The sooner you do, the sooner we can help. Well, good luck getting a diagnosis. It's a challenge. We've known that this is a challenge, and we've made great strides, and we're thrilled. For the first time, I'm looking at my director of programs, and I'm getting a thumbs up, so it's good. We can mention the model that we are developing, and it is called MINT Memory Clinics. I'm not going to go into detail tonight. There is a lot of information on this to come. We are so excited to be able to develop this. This is something that's in 5 provinces now across Canada. It's a collaborative primary care model, and we think it could really have a massive impact on the state of diagnosis in our province. Much more to come on that. Program expansion and refinement. There's folks living with dementia in the here and now that need our help, and we need to make it clear that as we're moving in new directions, our existing programs and supports will not only remain, but they will grow and expand to meet evolving need. I will mention that as well as expanding existing programs, we have a new counselling program now at the Society. We're working on a bereavement program. We're thrilled to be bringing a physical activity program back. We've not had something like that since the pandemic started. So lots of great activity going on in our program development. And a big one, corporate engagement. It's really, really important. We work in a sector where we are not for profit, but we have lots of folks working in the for-profit space that work directly with the people that we exist to support. And it makes sense to foster more collaborative and supportive engagement. And yes, sponsorship and financial support. So that's something that's become a real focus of the Society. The third intention, create communities of practice. The growth of the annual conference, which just goes from strength to strength to strength year on year. I know many people in the room are well aware of this, but we're thrilled to just continue to expand and grow the conference. And speaking of corporate engagement, Shanix have been a fantastic sponsor and supporter and friend of the Society for many, many years. And we're really, really pleased to say that coming this year at the conference, Shanix will be realigning their support of the conference to become the presenting sponsor of our Promising Practices Showcase. So that's the part of the conference where we spotlight initiatives that are happening across the province, usually in long-term care or those kind of environments, that could be replicated in other areas. And Shanix have really spotted an opportunity to support us in building out that platform so it's more visible and more accessible to everybody. Collaborative expansion of our You First for Healthcare. So this is a really important program where we educate over 300 healthcare professionals a year. I won't go into too much detail, but we are leaders of this. New Brunswick, our colleagues in New Brunswick are expanding. We're working really closely to share all of the stuff we've got so we're not duplicating efforts. That's a really big focus. And then a big one, development of what we're calling the Community Champions model. This is an ongoing and iterative piece of work that is designed to expand our impacts at community level. So again, not much more to share at this point, but there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And if you're interested in becoming a community champion, get in touch with the Society. We would love to chat with you. Influence policy related to dementia, really expanding our advocacy portfolio. We've done advocacy in every aspect of our work for many years, but what we're really recognizing is we need to spotlight it and bring it more into the center. Folks are asking us for this, so we're really thrilled to be developing our advocacy infrastructure. We have finally reinvigorated our committees, plural, of lived experience. So folks living with dementia or supporting somebody with dementia as a care partner that can help advise the expansion and refinement of our work. And then, as you know, this is a big thing for us, but embed the principles of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility into all aspects of our operational work. It's not just about talking about culturally specific programs. It's about making sure we have culturally relevant hiring practices and onboarding policies and all the things that touch our operation. We're very, very committed to this work. And finally, shape the future for people affected by dementia. Expanded resource for research and knowledge translation. We're already doing great work in this space, as is evidenced by our collaborations with our fantastic young superstars who are up and coming. But we're committed to expanding that even further. Just expanding existing research support and partnerships, and landmarks come up a few times tonight. Part 3 is coming, and it's going to be a big one. It's about the economic impacts of dementia, specifically on the healthcare system. We are going to be able to leverage the data of that report in really, really new and interesting ways. So that will become a big focus of ours too. So, as we wrap up this portion, just a couple of notes of dates that are upcoming. Our annual Dementia Care Conference. Registration is open, is that correct? Someone? Anyone? Yes, we're good. Registration is open for our conference on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. The theme, Exploring Unseen Dimensions, and there will be in-person and online options. Another biggie for us, Community Week 2024, September 22nd to September 28th, in person in 7 regions across the province with a virtual live stream from HRM. All the details of location specifically are yet to be determined, but that's the week, those are the dates, and as soon as we've confirmed that, we will be announcing that. And then obviously our core service, our dementia helpline, we answer over 4,000 calls a year on this service, and it continues to grow as the demand continues to grow. So we just want to encourage everybody to lean in to our incredibly talented team who are there to support folks on the journey, their care partners and healthcare professionals. And with that, I will hand over to our board chair to bring this portion of our adventure to a close. Wendy.
So before I close the meeting, John has just taken us through a number of slides about all of the work ahead. This is big work, really important work. I think it's probably obvious that everyone who's chosen to spend a very sunny, warm evening in this beautiful hotel with us, you're probably here for a reason. So if you don't have a very specific way that you can contribute to the work, volunteer, if you're not sure what fit or what role you can play, just come and talk to us. We will find something for you. Everyone has work that they can do, and the society is an open door for people who really care about making a difference. So thank you for attending tonight's annual general meeting. You can find a digital version of our report online at asnsannualreport.ca. You can also find a wealth of information about supports and services, details on how to connect with the staff team, and many resources available to view, read, and download. There's even a YouTube channel with recorded content of our support and education sessions. Everyone who registered for the event tonight will receive a video, or I guess you'll receive an email with a link to the video and the meeting recording. And to those of you who are online, thank you for tuning in. We are really excited to be here in person and to welcome people from around the province virtually as well as here up close and personal. As I close the AGM, I remind you to stick around. We have some cruiser tables at the back and some really, good conversations to be had, as well as some light refreshments and our first ever dementia-friendly community awards. So here's the serious business, the motion to adjourn. So with that, I motion to adjourn the meeting. And there is no second required for this motion. So I will thank you all again for your time and hand you back to John to open up the reception. Thank you.